Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast brought to you by Briar Greaves Insurance. Protecting your assets starts with a company that you can count on. So whether it's auto, homeowners, flood, boaters, or business insurance, Briar Greaves Insurance is the best people in the business to work with. Visit briargreavesinsurance.com or give them a call at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166. And make sure you give them a call this week.
That's
Because
right.
if you give Briar Greaves a call and you have them take a look at your insurance, you will automatically be entered into a free raffle to win free tickets to this Sunday's game between the Bucs and the Eagles. So all you got to do is give them a call, have them assess your insurance situation, and you'll be entered into that free raffle. So shout out to Briar Greaves Insurance. We have an emergency podcast with some big news to get to, some negative, some positive. The negative, star wide receiver Mike Evans, the greatest offensive player in Tampa Bay Buccaneers history, will be out for a couple of weeks with that hamstring injury. The MRI came out today, and he's going to be missing a couple of games. The positive news for the Bucs, and interesting news too, is that they are bringing back defensive tackle Desmond Watson, the former Florida Gator who signed as an undrafted free agent but did not practice at all in training camp, is back with the Bucs on their practice squad. That was reported by Greg Almond. So big news with Mike, a big player with Desmond Watson. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me, Cesar Scott Reynolds. Scott, two crazy different things going on right now.
Yeah. Certainly some good news for the Florida Gator fans and Desmond Watson fans out there. He did what I didn't think he was going to be able to do, which was get his weight down enough to where this team would consider signing him. It looked like a bit of a lost cause, to be honest, back in training camp. He didn't practice one single day in training camp because of his weight. And you know what? I appreciate this kid's stick-to-itiveness and the fact that he was able to continue to stay at it despite not having that kind of immediate reward, that gratification of, hey, I'll get to practice with the team this week. Missed all of training camp. And the team cut him because obviously he hadn't proven himself. But they held out hope that maybe if he continued to lose weight, to do what he needed to do from a physical conditioning standpoint, that they would possibly re-sign him to the practice squad. And they did. They signed him to the practice squad today. And it gives the Buccaneers a lot of defensive tackle candidates to put out there. We'll get into that in just a second. But even the bigger news, because of the active roster, is the Mike Evans news with regards to his MRI results. Ian Rappaport reported, well, we kind of expected that Evans is going to miss some time with the injured hamstring. The good news is it's not as bad as it was last year when he missed 3 games. They said 4 weeks with that injury, but one of those weeks was a bye week. But he only missed 3 games after leaving that Monday night game against the Baltimore Ravens. So I think this is a pretty good sign that Mike may miss just a couple games, the Eagles game, as well as the Seahawks game. He might return for that 49ers game in week 6. That's really just as big as the Eagles game is. The 49ers undefeated right now, just like the Eagles are, and the Buccaneers, of course. So I think this is some good news. I like the fact that even if he wasn't scheduled to miss some time, he needed to miss this game anyways, Matt, because we saw what happened last year when he tried to come back and play against the Baltimore Ravens on a sore hamstring. He ended up really pulling it and then missing all of that time. And the fact that you might miss 2 games as opposed to 3, that's good news for him and the Buccaneers.
Yeah, if Mike is only able to miss 2 games, I think you could still big picture and say, okay, this is important because you want to keep Mike healthy for the long haul. You want him for a late game playoff push, even, fighting for playoff positioning, because I think we all believe the Bucs are going to win the division. And also, if he only misses 2 games, it's still leaves the door open for Mike to reach 1,000 yards, and that's not the most
Yeah.
important thing, but it is still very important to him, to Bucs fans, to the history of this team as well. So he's at 140 yards right now. He has 860 more to go. If he misses the next 2 games, he's still going to have to bring up the production. But at that point, you'll have Emeka Egbuka, more experience in the offense, and he's already off to a great start. The return of Chris Godwin Jr. is right around the corner.
That's right.
It's going to be difficult sledding against the Eagles on Sunday, even with Mike Evans available.
Right.
But I think it's the right move to keep him out for this game and keep him fresh and healthy and ready to go. I mean, nobody was more angry than Mike Evans leaving that game against the Jets. I mean, he punched a cooler, he threw his helmet getting into the tunnel. It's going to be really rough for Tampa Bay, but, this is the situation that they're in at the moment.
Yeah. And you look at the schedule here, the next 2 games, of course, Philadelphia Eagles, Seattle Seahawks, both those teams are NFC teams that are doing quite well to start the season. But then you got the 49ers and the Lions right after that. Both those teams also doing well. Lions coming off a big win at Baltimore last night. They look like they're going to be an NFC team to contend with again.
Yeah.
And so if you get Mike back for those games and give him a couple of weeks to rest that hamstring, hopefully he's back to 100% and picks up like he did last year, the production, and is back on pace to get 1,000 yards. And then, of course, you have the Saints game before the bye week, and then you have that final stretch. So hopefully this is good news for Mike Evans. He will miss Sunday's game, of course, and likely the Seahawks game the week after. But maybe that's it. Maybe it's just 2 games rather than 3, and they will, they'll see what Emeka Egbuka, Sterling Shepard, who has had a phenomenal start to this year.
He's picked it up.
Has kind of been the unsung hero out there. Both Emeka Egbuka with a 28-yard catch on that final drive, followed up by the 20-yard catch and run on the screen pass from Sterling Shepard. I mean, the Bucs got down to field goal range, lickety split. Took them just 3 plays. He had the missed fire shot to Tez Johnson on first down, and then these back-to-back first downs. So it's going to be a tall order to beat the Eagles without Mike Evans, but I'm not going to say they can't do it. If the defense continues to play well, and speaking of the defense, we kind of talked about this when this team signed Desmond Watson to begin with, Matt. Is this the tush push eliminator? Is this the guy that's going to help the Eagles come to a screeching halt in those tush push situations on 3rd and short, 4th and short, goal line situations? That was kind of the fantasy that Buccaneers fans had in their head. And now it just may come to a fruition because the Bucs have signed, as Greg Allman reported, Desmond Watson to the practice squad. That makes him eligible for a practice squad elevation this week, Matt. And it would be something to see him, Vita Vea, and company try to stop Jalen Hurts with that tush push.
Yeah, that's the thought process of everyone. But Todd Bowles was very adamant against it at the time when talking about Desmond Watson on Monday. He said, we'll see where he is for signing him. This was before they signed him.
Right.
From that standpoint, but we'll never bring him in just to stop a tush push.
Correct.
If we've got to bring in a guy to stop one play and the tush push never comes up, you're wasting your time. If we bring him in, we think he can play not just for a Philadelphia thing. It's very unlikely he'd be ready to play once we bring him in for Philadelphia right now anyway. It's just a matter of us making room and seeing if we have a place for him and then what we see for him in the future. So, I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit of gamesmanship trying to, tell the Eagles that we're not bringing him in for this tush push. But at the same time, the Eagles, I know the Bucs have stopped it before, but I don't think the Eagles are going to be like, well, we're not going to run the tush push now because Desmond Watson's in the game.
Right.
I would love to see him called up. It'd be one of the most quasi storylines ever of not practicing at all in training camp. And then all of a sudden, hey, we're going to sign you and we're going to play you in a very important game on Sunday between 2 undefeated teams. I'd like to see him play. I think it's a fun storyline. It's a lot of great fanfare. It certainly brings attention and eyeballs. So I'm excited to see him practice tomorrow. We've never even seen him practice. I mean, since rookie minicamp. So
here's the thing. Todd Bowles is going to be opening himself up for some criticism if they sign Desmond Watson to the practice squad this week. Don't elevate him for Sunday. And if the Eagles do use the tush push successfully at some point in that game on Sunday, and the Buccaneers end up losing, fans are going to say, "See, you should have called up Desmond Watson. He could have
Yeah.
stopped it, right?" I mean, that's the scenario that could be presenting itself if, in fact, he's not elevated. But it's not like the Buccaneers don't have some options at defensive tackle. Let's take a look right now at exactly who is available for the Buccaneers from a defensive tackle perspective. And I think part of the reason why they brought Desmond Watson back this week is also due to the groin injury of Logan Hall, because right now the Buccaneers only have 5 defensive tackles on their active roster, and they started the season with just 5. Remember, they usually keep 6, but they started with 5. Then you had Elijah Simmons, the defensive tackle who was on the Cardinals practice squad. He was signed to replace Kalijah Cansey. So you have Vita Vea, you have Logan Hall, Greg Gaines, Elijah Roberts, and Elijah Simmons. And again, Logan Hall suffered a groin injury early in that game against the Jets, had to leave, and his status for Sunday is unknown as of right now. On the practice squad, you've got Adam Gotsis, who has already been elevated for week 1 when Vita Vea's status was in jeopardy for the Falcons game with an injured foot. They ended up playing, so did Gotsis. Then you have C.J. Brewer, Jason Jones, Nash Hutmacher, the rookie, and then Desmond Watson, the other rookie. Those are the 5 defensive tackles now in the practice squad. And we're not sure if one of those defensive tackles has been released to make room for Desmond Watson, but they have to make a move there. But it certainly gives the Buccaneers some options. And here's the thing. It's not like Elijah Simmons is a small guy. He's 6'1", 345 pounds. He's a big boy, too. And then Jason Jones, the rookie, is just a monster. He's 6'6", about 335. So they've got some really big guys on this defensive line, Watson included now.
They have some size. It'd be crazy if they brought up Jason Jones and Desmond Watson just to stop the tush push. But it is a possibility, and the Bucs have not made a corresponding move just yet with their practice squad. They will have to. But I think we got to give some credit to Elijah Roberts as well for stepping up with no Kalijah Cansey and with Logan Hall getting injured in that game. He showed that he's up to the task. He's not going to replace Kalijah Cansey, but he showed that he could definitely bring it for this defense. Now, it's nearly impossible to stop the tush push. Vita Vea did once.
Yeah.
Hopefully the Bucs don't get into that situation where the Eagles have to go to it, but we'll see. I think it's going to be important for the Bucs to stop the run overall.
As Tom Siskin Watson play guard. I think we might see Dan Feeney, Dirty Dan Feeney, might get his first shot at lining up for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Elijah Klein and Luke Haggard, that was an adventure at guard.
A lot of penalties.
A lot of penalties between both of them. Some of those those weren't just holding calls, Matt. Those were hold on for dear life calls. They were grabbing and holding Quinnen Williams and hanging on for dear life in that game. But if Tristan Wirfs does return, and we're hopeful that he does, he'll play left tackle. Then you'll see everything kind of reshuffle into place. Ben Bredeson will go back from center to left guard.
Yeah.
And Graham Barton will go back from left tackle to center. I think Graham Barton can't wait to play center again after the wild hijinks he's had over these last 3 games playing left tackle, which he hasn't played since college. But at least if that's the case, Matt, on the offensive side, you have the entire left side of your line kind of intact. 3 out of 4 ain't bad. And you just kind of maybe strategize some run plays and some protections where it's going to emphasize the stronger part of that line, which is the left side, as opposed to what we think might be Dirty Dan Feeney at right guard and then Charlie Heck at right tackle.
Yeah, I like the idea of Dan Feeney coming in and playing at right guard. It's almost essentially what they had with Michael Jordan playing left guard, an experienced player that has several starts at the position. Yeah. And if Tristan Wirfs is able to go, then, you're really just replacing your right guard, knowing that Luke Gedeke eventually is coming back at right tackle and will replace Charlie Heck.
Yeah.
Charlie Heck looked solid, against the New York Jets. Now, I can't help but think, in a couple of weeks when Aiden Hutchinson and the Lions host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we'll see what's up with Gedeke by then. But Charlie Heck has to play in that game, and we saw what Aiden Hutchinson did last time that the Bucs were missing starting offensive tackle. But that's a little bit down the road. they have their challenges against the Eagles this upcoming week. But so far, so good from Charlie Heck.
Yeah, as CH Aquatic says, I'm really happy they were able to bring Big Dez back. If we stop the tush push in the playoffs, that stadium is going to go nuts. I think the stadium will go nuts on Sunday if the Buccaneers do stop the tush push,
Yeah.
and certainly if Des Watson is a part of that. We've already seen early on how this Bucs fan base just loves Bucky Irving, right? We heard the Bucky Irving chants. We even
Yep.
heard the Baker Mayfield chants on Sunday as well after his big 33-yard run. You might hear some Desmond Watson chants from this fan base if he is able to be elevated and has a role in stopping the tush push. I would not rule that out. I would be shocked, honestly, if it didn't happen. And listen, the reason why we're doing kind of an emergency podcast here on a Tuesday for a practice squad player is twofold. Number one, we had nothing better to do. We're just writing stories and there's no podcast today. So we said, hey, let's just do an emergency podcast about this. But number two, and this just goes to our story count numbers, our podcast numbers. Desmond Watson is a phenomenon. He is a fan favorite. Everyone is rooting for this guy. Matt, you and I have had a chance to talk to him. He's a great kid. He's a hometown, story here. Plant City kid, went to Armwood, then went to Florida. And he's obviously got a weight problem, and he's making progress. And I think this is a very encouraging, positive sign, not just for the Bucs, but also for this young man. And it's a kind of a national storyline that we get a front row seat to watch and report on. And it's a good feel good moment. And let's hope that he can continue his progress and help this team win some games.
I hope he can play. And it's an exception to the rule. We're not going to do other emergency podcast for practice squad players unless they re-sign Shiloh Sanders. Then we'll do one for that. But I doubt that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But it's one of those perfect storm type of things where he played at Florida. It was one of the biggest storylines during training camp when sometimes I'm not even saying like Bucs training camp. I'm saying the entire NFL.
Yeah.
Where you're kind of looking for storylines sometimes because it's the same thing over and over and over. And this is big, no pun intended to his size. It's something that gains people attention. So if that's what it's going to be, then we're happy to talk about it.
For sure. I think the other thing too that's worth noticing here is when you look at the players that they have available here, if they're down Logan Hall, and you mentioned this too, Matt, it's not just bringing up one player on the defensive tackle spot on the practice squad. We might certainly see two. And the other thing too is we might even see three defensive tackles lined up. I mean, Todd Bowles likes to get creative. And if Logan Hall is going to be inactive, that means you're going to have Vita Vea, Greg Gaines, Elijah Roberts, and Elijah Simmons available. That's four, right? That's four guys. We've seen the Buccaneers carry 6 defensive linemen on the active roster before. And if Bowles really wants to get creative and just say, hey, we're going to go all out to stop the tush push or any variant that you may have of this, because I'm sure Philly, they have a couple of variants where maybe there's an off tackle run or something like that, where you line up in a tush push formation, but you do something kind of gimmicky out of it. So maybe you need to kind of bolster the ends of that defensive tackle tandem inside of Vita Vea and perhaps Desmond Watson. Again, we're just speculating here, but then maybe you want to have kind of like a wall of defensive tackles, maybe a 4 or 5 defensive tackle front where you could literally play Vita Vea and Desmond Watson inside in the A gaps, kind of maybe shading over the center. And then you've got to the outside of them, Greg Gaines and Elijah Simmons, and then maybe Jason Johnson. I mean, you could have a monster wall right there. There's a lot of bodies that Todd Bowles could use to deploy to literally put 2,000 pounds perhaps worth of beef up front, or maybe 1,500. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here, but 1,500 pounds of girth and strength to build a pewter wall that the Eagles may not be able to penetrate.
I'm all for it because you look at some of the other practice squad elevations or just current players on the roster. The Bucs have a lot of their main offensive linemen that they're going to shuffle around now on the active roster. They don't have to call up someone the way that they were doing with Michael Jordan for the first 2 games.
Yeah.
With Mike Evans not being available, that's why they kept extra wide receivers. They don't have to call up, say, a Sterling Shepard from the
That's right.
practice squad. He's already on the active roster. Same with
Yep.
Tez Johnson and Cameron Johnson. And then now if Chris Godwin Jr. is back, that kind of, certainly fills a bit of a void too. So I'm all for bringing up 2, maybe even 3 defensive tackles and let them go in and do what they specialize at more. Like I think Gotsis and Brewer are pretty good at stopping the run. When I say pretty good, like in terms of being a practice squad defensive lineman, they can stop the run, which will still be very important. And then if you want to go and negate the tush push, that's where you go in with Jones and Desmond Watson specifically too. So I'm all for creativity. I'm all for Todd Bowles dialing up some crazy looks that even we haven't seen before. So we'll see.
Yeah, and then the last thing I'll kind of bring up too is this is going to be another hot game. This is going to be another game where the feels like temperature on the field is going to be well over 100 degrees. Last week, I think it was around 90 degrees at kickoff here in Tampa, and the feels like temperature was 120 degrees on the field. So similar type of forecast coming up for this Sunday's game. Hot, humid, sunny day in Tampa. Very much like week 4 last year, Matt, the last time the Eagles came to town. Matter of fact, they're coming in town a day early to get used to the heat. I don't know that you get used to the heat. I don't know that one more day. It might even backfire. They might spend all day Saturday outside trying to get used to the heat, and it might just wear them down for Sunday, right? I mean, that might backfire. So we'll see what happens. But the one thing too is Todd Bowles in a game where they're going to feature Saquon Barkley a lot. Even though the Buccaneers have been really stout in terms of stopping the run, they're a top 10 run defense. Philadelphia is going to say, we don't care. We run the ball. That's what we do. We have Saquon Barkley. I don't care if you're the number 1 ranked rushing defense or the number 32 ranked rushing defense. We're going to run the ball. That's what we do as the Philadelphia Eagles. So maybe you want to have an extra defensive tackle up or 2 to keep Vita Vea and Greg Gaines fresh and not have to have them wear down. If you get into a game where the Eagles have the ball and you do the snap counts, Matt, if they're having the ball for 70 plays plus in this game, you're going to have some defensive linemen up front wear down. And if it's a close game, they're not going to have as much gas left in the tank to rush the passer because they're going to be trying to shed blocks and make tackles with Saquon Barkley in that ground game. So, have an extra 2 defensive tackles up for this game in the efforts to keep Vita Vea, Elijah Roberts, those pass rushers as fresh as possible for the fourth quarter, and in case you need them to be pass rushers.
Yeah, I mean, I think they should have rotated a lot of different positions in last game, whether it was running back, defensive tackle. Now, they were short-circuited a little bit with not having Logan Hall. But, I think having a lot of different rotations is definitely a good idea for this game.
Yeah.
Hey, if you guys aren't already doing so, please make sure you follow us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We're at Pewter Report, and our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. So please like and subscribe and leave a comment on how you're feeling about Desmond Watson or the Mike Evans situation. By the way, we'll have a Pewter Report podcast tomorrow at 4 o'clock as we preview Bucs versus Eagles, where we'll talk a little bit more about non-Desmond Watson news, but that'll be coming up tomorrow at 4 o'clock. We'll have another show on Thursday at 4, a Pewter Insider on Friday at 1:30, and all that good stuff. So that'll do for us in this emergency podcast. For Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you tomorrow for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.